What a depressing episode. Episode 12, Gnosia. What a depressing episode. My poor girl Gina does not get a happy ending. I mean, I guess he technically does get a happy ending. I mean, she, finally got to have somebody that she trusted, somebody that she could hear a lie from, and she was perfectly happy with it. She got happiness. In the end, she got happiness before, unfortunately, floating away into space and suffocating. And a Comet over here gets a decently happy episode. SQ gets a happy episode. But no, Gina's arc, no. She's just going to die alone. Well, just, oof. But no, to follow up this depressing episode, though, we did get some happy news around Gnosia as a series, which is great. We got to find out that, yes, it is going to be running for 2 consecutive cores. I think the big question mark there was really, yes, one, are we going to get a sequel? Because most people were saying this can run for 2 cores, but really when that sequel is going to come. And yes, we're going to take 1 week break next Saturday, no Gnosia, and then it comes back, I think, on January 10th, the following week. But anyways, either way, cool to hear about that, even though it sucks because winter is packed already. And now we have Gnosia in there. It's like, no, we don't need any more shows. But no, I'm going to be here for it. Really enjoying this series overall. But let's get into episode 12. Let's actually dive into this episode because I'm very mixed on this episode. I think Gina's story, unfortunately, doesn't really have enough oomph for me. Like, it wasn't that intriguing, that interesting. Really, a lot of what's interesting in this episode is what the doors that it opens up to. It really is, yes, Yuriko and that whole ship and the whole, cyberization, that kind of stuff. That's where it's getting interesting because I don't know, it just feels a lot like they're trying to tie the two of them together with Gnosia and what the Gnosia do to people. But let's get into this. Let's open up the episode. Yes, we have Yuri being woke up by Gina. Apparently Setsu sent her to go wake him up. And then, yes, they go walking off together. Now, it's very interesting here because Yuri is very standoffish on Gina. Like, the moment that she runs into him, says, look, I'm not very good around people and, voicing my opinion to people, and Yuri is just kind of closing off to her. Now, I'm assuming the reason that Yuri is being so cold, because typically Yuri's always like, cool, she wants to talk to me, let's talk, I want to find out more about Gina. It feels like he's actively pushing Gina away, which doesn't make any sense. The only thing I can think of is that Yuri is purposely doing this in order for Gina to not get, suspicious of why he's suddenly talking to her. I think it's, playing hard to get, basically. Yuri's playing hard to get with Gina and purposely pushing her away so that later on she comes back to him and says, okay, let's trust each other now. And thus it feels like they made a connection. Either way, as they get to the meeting, we find out that there is 2 Gnosias there, one engineer that nobody steps forward for. Rashio immediately starts suspecting Yuri. Chippie decides to speak up and gets himself flagged as well. All to kind of build into Yuri, bringing up the idea of paying attention to people's mannerisms and tones in order to find out, who's lying. I thought Yuri was going to employ what he's done before, where he basically has everybody claim if they are human or not, because I thought that'd be kind of interesting to bring up now, because we've sort of had a similar situation with utilizing that with Gina herself. But either way, they for some reason, they apparently find out it's Yuriko, which is, yes, as we find out later on, kind of convenient because, yes, Yuriko is eventually in this episode going to come up to some sort of tie-in with the story with Gina and the idea that she was involved with this ship that apparently affected Gina's life in the past with her mother. Either way, Yuriko ends up getting frozen, and Yuri kind of mumbles to himself, and Gina picks up on this, the statement that was made before by, I think, Setsu, ? I'm pretty sure it was Setsu. It was a brief moment where I thought it might have been Gina because she kind of gravitates to it, but I think it was Setsu. Either way, this was something that was brought up before, this idea of, if you don't speak enough, you're going to have suspicion upon you, but if you speak too much, you're going to have suspicion brought to you. And that was really the reason why Yuriko ends up getting kind of thrown into the freezer. Either way, we get a brief shower scene with Gina. It's a brief shower scene with Gina, and apparently Atome. We had to show Atome for some reason. I don't know. There's something odd about, like a humanoid version of a dolphin that just, it doesn't know. Stop. Get it off the screen. Get it off. And as much as I love her saying so freaking much, get the naked dolphin off the screen. But no, Yuri comes by there, get a quick accidental viewing of Gina before they kind of get off to the side together. Again, this is where I kind of assume that Yuri was trying to play hard to get, and now finally here, trying to make a connection with her, showing that there's some sort of trust that was created. But either way, it is interesting to have sort of the same route taken here as the Gina Gnosia one before. The past Gina that was a Gnosia did the same thing to trick Yuri. Brought him out into space in order to do some sort of like trust thing. If you're out there with some partner, you have to have full trust that they'll be able to help you whenever you're in trouble, bring you back in if something malfunctions or something. And yeah, Yuri quickly calls it out. Says that he's been through all these loops before, and yes, a previous Gina that was a Gnosia did the same thing to bring him out there. Which, yes, I kind of wonder if Yuri at that point did know that, in fact, Gina was going to be Gnosia because of the fact that she welcomed out there. But what sort of goes against that is the fact that this Gina seems to be very much so against this, which is sort of interesting to me. And I think that sort of does play into what has applied to the Gnosia during their process of being around Yuri or the others on the ship. Because, again, the previous Gnosia, Gina, she didn't seem too nice. She didn't seem too nice. She went straight to the whole deception, got him deceived, and that route ended in ruin. Whereas this one, it seems like this Gina is actively trying to stay away from things. And that could play into what we find out later on, where Gina and Atome, as the Gnosias, made the decision that they did, because it does seem like Gina, despite being Gnosia, is actively trying to fight the desire to lie. I don't know. But anyways, Yuri does explain the fact that he has met other Gnosia, been a Gnosia before, kind of relates to her in a lot of ways, and the idea of not wanting to lie, but still feeling like, while a Gnosia, it all comes out naturally. It's just second nature. You just lie to the people around you to deceive the humans in order to make them believe you're human, all for the sake of one thing. And this, for Gina's character, is terrifying. And now we finally discover what has sort of been Gina's thing, because she always hates the idea of becoming Gnosia. Every loop, she always talks about the idea of this other beings of elsewhere trying to change who we are, and yes, wanting death rather than to be attacked by a Gnosia. I'd rather die than be attacked by a Gnosia. And it all seems to center around this experience that she had with her mother in the past. That apparently this ship that Yuriko is a part of, this group, goes around different places and cyberizes people. They talked about this very briefly with Shigemichi. Shigemichi was after something that happened with him. They were going to, cyberize him, but he decided to instead get the synthetic skin or whatever and become what he is now. So it was like a brief moment where he could have made the decision to do that, and he regrets not doing that because now he's stuck on the ship. And then he meets Stella, and they have that little bond created between the two of them. But that was our brief moment to talk about cyberization, and I would assume it's the idea of taking your consciousness or whatever and sticking it in some sort of digital realm. And it seems like Yuriko and this group is like some sort of religious group that goes around and does that. And as, Gina puts it, deceives people, changes them into something else, which would be, again, probably cyberizing them. And that, of course, would make sense of why, one, Gina doesn't like lying, and she doesn't want to be Gnosia because now she lies because she's experienced people going around and lying to the one that is important to her, her mother, and taking her life away, presumably. Taking her mother away from her. Despite the fact that they did also offer her to bring her in as well, it seems like she declined that. She was afraid of it or something, or seen that there was deception and didn't want to be a part of it. They didn't really get into why she said no. You'd assume with how much she loved her mother and did not want to be part with her mother, you would assume that she would just kind of accept it and go, yeah, mom did that and I want to be with mom, so let's do it. Something pushed her away. Something made her afraid of it or something. And that could be just, again, the idea of separating the body and the soul or whatever. Either way, this also explains why she doesn't like the Gnosia, because it seems to imply, and this is where it gets intriguing to me, it seems to imply the Gnosia's whole thing is similar to it. And again, this is from a perspective of somebody that is now infected and becoming a Gnosia. You would assume that she knows something about this whole process of what they do to people during the warp, or whatever happens to humans whenever Gnosia attack them or Gno attack them. She's saying those eliminated by the Gnosia, they don't die. What's left behind is nothing but their soul, which again, they sort of implied is what happens when Gnosias attack people, that their spirit is sent off somewhere else, their soul is sent off somewhere else, and the Gnosia take over the body. And again, similar to what happened when we've seen, Yuri and the rest of them attacking Atome. What happened? It's like her body digitized into this substance and then went into this black hole. I'm kind of wondering if they're both the same. This all makes me believe they're almost implying that what the Gnosia are doing, potentially, is that cyberization. that they're turning people into digital data and sending them off of some sort. Or potentially, the reverse could be true as well. Potentially, whatever Yuriko and the Hoshibune ship, whatever they were doing, this religious cult or whatever, what they were doing is similar to Gnosia. That they're not cyberizing people, that they're actually taking them out like the Gnosia do. What's the possibility the ship itself is infested with Gnosia? And they're going around acting like a cult and just taking people's bodies. I don't know. It doesn't imply that Gina ever seen her mother again. So it wasn't like, somebody took over them. But again, whenever people are taken out by the Gnosia during the warp, they're actually taken out completely. Again, it gets in that whole question mark that I still have between what is a Gno and what is a Gnosia. Because from the very beginning, they implied Gno are what turn humans into Gnosia. Whereas it only seems like Gnosia just eliminate people completely. So the possibility that ship is just full of people that are Gnosia, specifically. Anyways, that all leads to Gina's kind of desire here that she does not want to lie to people, just like they lied to her mother, and doesn't want to take lives away just like they did, and just wants Yuri to freeze her. Put me in the freezer. I don't want to do this crap. But no, Yuri's like, no, I want to help you out. I want to help you, not the Gnosia, not the humans. I want to help you, which leads them to the warp. Which, again, this was very interesting because we have both Gina and Atome is the Gnosia confirmed at this point. And Atome immediately suggests they take out Yuri. Yuri is the one that seems to have, the most suspicious of us. Let's take him out. Then it cuts forward and Rashio is gone instead. Which implies that Gina had to have said, no, we're not taking out Yuri. She chose actively at this point, we're going to protect the one thing that technically knows my secret. I think it's a huge thing at this point because Gina is fighting the desires of the Gnosia actively right now in order to protect Yuri. She's protecting a human and fighting those desires, which is pretty cool. That's when we cut to the meeting and Gina sabotages them. That was so bad. I kind of felt bad for Atome, the Gnosia Atome. Because, yes, Chippy speaks up that he is an engineer, then Atome does, and then Gina does, and then Atome's like, what the hell are you doing? And then they do the reports, 2 on Chippy, 1 on Atome, which pretty much made them painted as being the Gnosia. 2 people choosing 1 person. It's obviously these 2 people are going to be Gnosia. Which was interesting because afterwards they did end up freezing both of them. So it does imply that, yes, they can choose to vote for 2 different people. Or maybe have 2 different meetings. Or it could just be that Atome got voted and then Gina's like, I'm going to go in there too. Don't worry about it. I don't know. I just feel bad for Atome though. I feel bad for Atome. But anyways, yes, they freeze poor Atome. Then the ship starts to do its warning. The shields are down. Of course, Gina goes out there to fix it before, again, pushing herself out into space. And Yuri shows up and grabs her and says, I'll be together forever. Don't worry. We'll go together. And then Gina's like, I'm happy for once at somebody's lie. What are you talking about? I'm going to stay with you forever. No. You said you're not going to stay here. You're looping out of here. Don't lie to me. Again, depressing ending. Stupid depressing ending. Poor Gina doesn't get a happy. Again, she's happy. It's just not a happy ending. It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet in the end. Either way, looking forward to the next episode. Again, 2 weeks out. We got 2-week wait before we get the next episode. Looking forward to where it goes in the second core. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video as always. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content and you want to support it more, become a member. Until next time, y'all take care.